Hello guys and welcome to today's video. And I know I'm sitting here with my bare face, so if you guys are wondering what the hell is happening, I forgot to make a painting this week because I was so busy and crammed up. So today I'm going to paint my face. Today's video is inspired by Bailey Sarian and Horror and Beauty on YouTube, so check them out and let's get started. So when I read all the cases of today's video, like today's true crime story, my first reaction was like,
oh my god. Oh my god. Bro. Bro.
please do not question the way I put my foundation. So this guy has been named as the worst serial killer even by the Guinness Book of World Records because of the number of people he killed. And surprising facts about the story that really pissed me off. So this guy has been committing crimes since 1992 up until 1999 in Colombia, South Africa, and he has been eluding the authorities for 9 years and committing his crime. So any serial killer, he was a freaking pedophile. That's how he wanted to feel. Like, he wanted to feel like God. And so he went around for 9 years committing crimes in various parts of South Africa. If you're wondering why it took the authorities such a long time to catch this guy, well, first of all, he was kind of smart towards the beginning of when he started committing these crimes. But then again, you have to remember this is South Africa, and even in places where they have like highly developed technology and stuff like that, it's really hard to catch serial killers. So this is South Africa. This hunt of the serial killer began in Villavencia, Colombia, South Africa. And poor guy whose name was Ivan Sabokal, he was going around selling lottery tickets. If you know a lot about Colombia and South Africa, you know that the part of Colombia, it has a lot of homeless people, homeless children. Ivan Sabokal, he was just doing his daily chores. He was going around trying to sell some lottery tickets and trying to get some money for him and his family. For his school, like, they had to earn their own money. So Ivan, he went out, but he did not come back home at the same time, and he was gone for quite a while. So his mother, naturally, she got worried and she went to the authorities and she told them that her son was missing and she couldn't find him. And of course she had to convince someone or the other to take her case because she was looking for her missing son. She stumbled upon this detective. My mistake. He wasn't a detective, he was the prosecutor, and his name was Fernando Aya. So Fernando was really quick at accepting her case, Yvonne's case, and he jumped ahead and he started looking for him because the case was kind of similar with 3 other cases that he was dealing with for about a year. But this was not in that region, this was in a different region, but it was kind of similar. And 6 months before this case, of course, he had been looking for like 3 children for a year. At 6 months before this case arrived, he actually ended up having 13 more, not 13 more, 10 more cases. So in total he had 13 cases of missing children, and their bodies were found in you say sugar fields or places with tall shrubs. And that's common, and it's very easy for people to not see the crime or miss the signs like the smell or anything, because these shrubs are really tall, so you cannot, and they're dense, so you cannot really walk through them. You have to take a horse or take a car or something, so it's very easy for you to miss those spots, and if there's any smell or anything, you're definitely gonna miss it. So this guy, He was very clever with what he was doing, so he knew what he was doing. This guy being Luis Garavito. Now, Luis Garavito was born in Colombia, and his mom was a prostitute, and I just messed that up. I just messed that up. Oh my god, I look like I have black eyes. Luis Garavito, why am I saying the name like that? Anyways, he was born in Colombia on 25th January 1957. His mom, like I mentioned, was a prostitute, and throughout his childhood, his dad actually forced him to watch his mom having intimate intercourse with her clients, like throughout her childhood. Well, Garavito's dad was an alcoholic. He was a drug abuser, and he would torture and abuse his mom, and of course he would do that in front of Garavito, and eventually Garavito ended up running away from home, and he was surviving on the streets of Colombia, and until finally, when he was at the age of 8, a man found him and promised him that he would give him a home, a hot meal, and a roof to stay under for at least a night. So, him being 8 years old, he trusted that man and he went with him. That man ended up being a pedophile, and of course, when he took him with him, he ended up torturing him, and basically it was a very tough time for Gary. So he was left in an abandoned home where the man had initially taken him after he abused him. He left him there, and later Garavito joined a gang because he thought that the gang would give him protection. Garavito ended up earning enough money. He left the gang and he actually got a job, and he had a girlfriend, and he was known to his friends as a kind man, but who had a temper. That kind of sounds like me. I'm very nice, but then if you get me angry, boy, that's the end of you. Let's go back to our prosecutor and Yvonne. So basically, what was happening is these people, they started finding a lot of bodies, and this was either in Bogota or around Bogota, like in a specific area around where this killer lived. This killer, of course, being Garavito. And not only that, he had the audacity, the pure audacity, to go around Colombia and do the same thing, and he thought that he was being so smart that people wouldn't track him. Well, you're wrong. God is watching. Because these bodies were of children, let me tell you how the bodies were. First of all, they were dismembered. So it wasn't like it was an entire skeleton structure. They were dismembered, and they were some of them were almost decaying, some of them were on their way to decay. So it was kind of hard to actually recognize the people using facial recognition, because facial recognition usually looks at the symmetry of adults, not children, and you know that the bones of children are growing. It's really hard because there was no algorithm that would match facial recognition with children, so they had to get like facial recognition forensic reconstruction experts who could like sculpt out the faces of the children to try and identify them. And the funny thing is, all of these, they were homeless children. You usually do not see homeless children go missing. Mostly homeless adults go missing. They hardly go missing. So when homeless children started going missing, that was kind of a like warning point that something is up. We might have something going on. And the initial theory was that this could be a religious cult, The initial theory was this could be a religious cult doing these kind of things. This could be a priest. It could be like gangs, gang rapes and stuff like that. So they were hell-bent on finding these people. So, outside Bogota, there was a mass grave found where they found cascades of 14 children, and upon forensic examination, all of these children were found to be Caucasian and from the age 6 to 16. So this guy had like a age limit. He had a preferred type. So using all of this information that they were getting, they started trying to profile the killer. So they were now building a killer profile, and they moved from their initial theory of it being like a religious cult or a new gang thing to it finally being a serial killer. So now they were on the right track, but this Garavito guy was still escaping. So let me tell you what Garavito does. He pretends to be a priest, and he lures homeless children into going with him by saying that, you know, he can help them or he has chocolates. And then there are some children who are already addicted to drugs, so he promises them that he would give them drugs, and he lures them and he takes them, and then he of course them and he tortures them. He ties them up, he keeps them bound and tortures them, and some of them he kills immediately, but the others he keeps them tied up, and then he goes ahead and brings other guys and them in front of the one that's bound. This guy is another level of hole. To more than 130 boys, and these are all young boys. So of course he had a sadistic personality, and he had this hunger of feeling like a god. And that's why he went ahead and he did all of that. After he is done and torturing these kids, he kills them by slitting their throat with a dull knife and dismembering their body into pieces, and then he goes around and buries them in sugar fields or like forests and like places where there are like really dense shrubs and dense population of trees and things like that, because then it would be harder for people to identify or even find where these bodies were. And at one case, in one of the graves, they found one grave in which they found 25 cascades of children. 25. When these bodies started showing up, the authorities, they started pulling files from 1991 up until that time, which was currently 1996 or 1995, around that time, and they found that there was like 5,000 similar cases. And within those 5,000, because these recent cascades were of male, they removed all the female categories. So within those 5,000, there was at least around 1,000 or 2,000 male children who were killed this way, and these type of cases. So they were able to have a list of people, like have a list of criminals to identify, to catch who's trying to do this. What happened later on was this guy, he started leaving evidence behind. So he used to take stuff from the children as souvenir, like maybe a dismembered jawbone, a dismembered arm bone, something like that, maybe their clothes, or maybe like their belt, their watch. So he used to keep souvenirs, and he started getting sloppy. He started leaving things out, like once he left his shoe, and then he left a beer bottle that could be used to identify him. He left like fibers on the ropes that he used to tie their hands with. He left fibers on that. He left clothes, he left underwear. it's like, you know, when you commit a crime and you're quick to run away from the scene, and you leave evidence, and then everyone's like, that's sus. That is sus. So the authorities, they then took in these evidence, and they were able to improve the victim profile, because from the shoes that he left, an expert figured out that this guy's height was probably, they figured out that the height range was 1.63 and 1.67 meters. So that eventually allowed them to remove some of the criminals that they generally profiled from the 1 or 2,000 cases that they opened from 1991 until the current time. And later on, in one of the scenes, you remember I mentioned that they found the beer bottle? So they were able to take a fingerprint off the beer bottle, really a profile on the print, but from the print they were able to figure out that this guy, yeah, I'm making my nose really pink, do not question me, just wait for the ending. Do not question, oh my god, it's so pink. So this guy, they actually profiled this guy to be at the age of like 42 or around 42. So that actually reduced the list of criminals to 95 people, amongst which 65 of them fit the characteristics of the height. So they were still nowhere close to Garavito. In the meantime, this Garavito guy, he was still going around committing crime, while the police are still trying to figure out who this person is who's committing this crime. And this thing is like getting worse by the day. So it's not getting better, it's getting worse by the day. So now the authorities are hell-bent on finding this person, because they have to, they honestly have to. This needs to end, and this needs to end now. From the shoe that they actually found, the experts were able to recognize that this man had a limp because of the places where the shoe had creases. That revealed that he was only putting pressure on one leg, which meant that he probably had a limp. So he was limping on one leg. Authorities then started sorting out the names of the criminals according to the areas where majority of the body was found, and through this process they managed to get out like 25 names. So they finally had something. So now the authorities were like, okay, listen, if we want to get lure him out from his cave, we need to get into his cave undercover. So they sent their men undercover into the homeless areas and into the homeless neighborhood to try and lure this guy out. So one of the guys, whose name is Bogota, he was the lead inspector or detective of this case, and he was working with his team. So he had sent his team undercover into the neighborhood of the homeless, and he went ahead to Bogota to find another case that was similar to this case, and this was committed in 1990, and this child was 12 years old. And guess what? The locals of Bogota, they had actually reported that the suspect was not a local of Bogota. He was someone from outside, and they had actually taken the suspect as captive and interrogated him. But upon having no evidence, or upon having a lack of evidence, they had to let him go. And guess what? This captive was Garavito. But guess what? So remember I said that they interrogated the man? So when they interrogated him, obviously they took his name and address and everything, and bingo, his name was on the file that the detective was looking at. So he was able to profile Garavito and identify him, and I was wrong when I said that he was not profiled as a criminal before, because he was apparently, and he took this and then he went back to Colombia to inform people that this was the case and this was the suspect. And meanwhile, when he was gone, things were progressing in Colombia. So stuff started happening. As they kept looking into the case and all these undercover police, they finally profiled one criminal whose whereabouts were matching where the bodies were found, and his name was Pedro. And upon investigating undercover, they actually found that Pedro was selling honey in the same beer bottles that was found in one of the graves. So that was one of the evidences they found. So this Pedro guy was like sus. He was sus, and all they needed was some sort of eyewitness, some sort of proof, or some sort of evidence to get him locked up. So one evening, when the officers spotted Pedro selling his honey, he saw them lure two boys away, and he was like, now that is kind of sus. So what's he up to? And then apparently these two boys, they were about to get and tortured, but they escaped. And one of the eyewitnesses, they had identified Pedro as the guy who tried to rape him. So that evidence was enough for the authorities to come into action. So they were like, Pedro, my man, you are so done. But boy, were they wrong. Because Pedro had a record of sexual abuse against children, that's why the authority were so quick at, like, profiling him and hell-bent on, wow, like getting him in the jail. So they went ahead and they captured Pedro. What the hell are you doing, bro? You have been going around and killing children. Why are you doing that? And then Pedro's like, look, I am not the guy you're looking for. I have redeemed myself, and I stopped doing those things, and I promised myself to have a better life. I'm not the guy. You got the wrong guy. You have the wrong guy. It's not me. And the authorities are like, yeah, we're not gonna believe into that bullshit. So don't mess with us, bro. Don't try to mess. Pedro lived in the same area as Garavito. It made it even more easier for the authorities to be like, you know what? We're not gonna buy into your lies, sit in jail, and rot there. But were they up for a surprise? Hell yeah. The investigators were like very relieved and stuff, because finally there was someone behind the bars for what was happening, and it took them 9 years to find this person. So they actually thought they found their killer, because his height and his the place where he lives, and then the beer bottles that he was selling with honey, everything matched the profiling of the criminals. So he was taken captive as the fugitive. But while Pedro was in jail, Garavito went ahead committing those crimes, more people, and killing children. So they were like, the authorities like, what the hell is going on? I thought we had our guy. More bodies started to pop up, and this guy Pedro, he's in jail. He's like, dude, I'm not your man. You've got the wrong guy. And forensic experts, they're now like, listen, this is done by one guy and one guy only, because all the patterns are same. And now the authorities have realized that they have made a big mistake, and now they were like, you know what, we need to find this guy fast because 4 more boys have died, and Garavito is like on a killing spree, and he's like, haha, you guys cannot catch me, so I'm gonna just keep doing what I'm doing. And oh my god, this guy, he evaded the law for 9 years, and they have Pedro in jail, so they're like, I'm confused, I don't know what's going on, is this the guy or not? So they decided it was them against Mother Nature. So they started following tracks of the body, and they started looking for more evidence that would pin someone to what's going on. So they started using so many technologies that they started using research from Russia about bone structure, and they got in psychologists and everyone trying to profile the personality of this killer, and they're just like putting more law enforcement in those areas and disguise, and just trying to, see if he slips or makes another mistake so that they can catch him. With all the new techniques that they were, wow, that is purple as hell. I am in love with this color. Holy shit. All the techniques that they pulled off into just profiling and everything, they finally managed to like reconstruct the faces of 4 children, and the families were able to identify these 4 children, and hallelujah, that was something new. So remember, this Garavito guy was actually profiled by the lead detective of the case. So he went and he found one of Garavito's sisters, and he started questioning her about Garavito, his house, and you're asking about his whereabouts, and then the sister's like, I don't know what's up with him, and he was here a few days ago or something, and he left behind a bag. So he gave her the bag, and guess what the bag contained? Take a guess. The bag contained a catalog of him, not of him, of the children that he actually murdered, like their age, what kind of skin color were they, and what were their names, and the things he took from them as souvenirs. So he was like keeping a log of the people he killed, and of course the log had the authorities were like, bingo, we have our guy. It is definitely this dude who has been going around killing these people, because he has written exactly who he has killed, on what time, on what day, and how he has killed, and exactly what he has done to them. So the bag that they had found, funnily, it also had a picture of Luis Garavito himself. So now they were able to give this guy a face. So it was even more easier for them to find him, because now they know how he looks. I mean, like I said, they found like receipts and stuff and transaction receipts. So upon tracking the account, they found that it led to a woman, and surprisingly over there they found another suitcase. And whoa, did that suitcase have evidence? Yes, it did. So that suitcase and synthetic fibers that were found in the crime scene. So where are you gonna go now? Huh? Where are you gonna go? We got you. From the evidence that they found there, they were able to identify that this guy was like burned, and because of the crime scene was also burned, so they found like arsenals and bottles that were used to like light a fire, and they assumed that the suspect was heavily, like badly burned. And so they found a ticket from where they could identify the city that he escaped to, and upon reaching there, one of the pharmacies told him that This guy was here trying to take medicines for burns on his left arm. Arm was injured from the fire, so he was looking for medicines, and he was like he wasn't in a good condition apparently. So the search for him intensified in 1999. On 22nd of April 1995 at 7:15, the police received a phone call from an automobile store, and it was this child, it was this kid who was terrified, and he said that he had escaped he had escaped from someone trying to, and he came to the store to call the police. So the police was like, okay, this might be Garavito, so we need to, like, amp up our search and get this guy before he does something stupid again. And guess what? Surprise, surprise! The guy was Ivan. So Maria was taken to the place where Ivan was found, and Maria instantly recognized him. And Ivan is not dead, he's alive. And bro, Ivan is your superhero. Ivan was actually spotted by a homeless man, and he was saved by the homeless man. And then the store owner found both of them, and so Ivan and the homeless man, they took them back to the jail where they were like, the homeless man saved Ivan, but unfortunately Garavito escaped again. So the police were like so disappointed because they were like so close to capturing him, but somehow he freaking escaped, man. So they were all going back to the police station to regroup, and Ivan and his mother, they were also riding in the police car together. And guess what? When they were going back, Ivan actually spotted Garavito on the road. He was able to identify Garavito. Had the nerve to lie and say he's Bonifacio Alvaro Morero, and there was no record of this name anywhere in the police records. So they ended up arresting him anyways because they took Ivan's word for it, and he matched the description because he had injury on his left arm, left leg, and the left side of his body. So the police took him in because he wanted to show everyone that he's not the culprit. So he pretended to not be scared at all. And so finally Garavito was captured. So the police were like so happy and relieved that they finally caught the man who was behind all of these murders. And eventually Garavito, in his jail time, he confessed to murdering at least 138, and he had drawn maps of where these bodies might be, and that helped the investigators find these bodies. And upon like further investigation and stuff, they actually found that there might be more than 130 bodies. Finally, his sentence was like 1,885 years and 9 days in jail. But I don't know what went on with the authority. For some reason, they reduced the original sentence to 35 years, and that made the local public go batshit crazy. I mean, 35 years for this guy who committed more than 300 crimes, and you're just sentencing him for 35 years. And guess what? Upon asking, he said that apparently he was possessed by some demon who was making him do these kind of things, and that he feels remorse for all the boys that he killed, and that he was drunk and not in his right senses, because if he was, he wouldn't have done that. If he was, he wouldn't have done that. So he was trying to blame it all on supernatural things. But well, his sentence did get reduced to 35 years, so I guess maybe that worked. I don't know why the authorities would be that stupid to do something like that. Why would you reduce the sentence to 35 years? Anyway, so he actually got out of jail after 8 years because of good behavior, and surprisingly, he went ahead and took a job in an organization that would help spread awareness against child rape and help children who have been abused. How ironic is that? So that was it for today's video. I hope you guys like this puzzle look. I don't know how I did, because honestly it's kind of hard to talk and do face art, but I promise to bring real paper art next time. And meanwhile, give it a like, give it a share, give it a comment, and if you want me to talk about something or a story that you want me to have a look at, just post it down on the comment box and subscribe to my channel. And thank you all. And I don't know if I can be able to post next week because I have finals coming up, but I will definitely get posting once I am done with my finals. So bye.